you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There are only things that makes it official. Welcome to the Chris Voss Show for over 16 years. 16 years going on 17, 2,600 episodes. We've been doing this for so long, I can't even remember how it works.
Millions of downloads can't be wrong.
So there you go. Anyway, guys, we have an amazing young man on the show today. We're going to be talking to him about his insightful trilogy and other books and works that he's been up to. But in the meantime, we need you to go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss, and YouTube.com/Chris Voss. Or for your friends, neighbors, relatives, go all around your neighborhood, knock on their doors, and say, we need you to join the cult. No, I'm just kidding. It's not a cult. We don't have sacrifice or anything, at least not yet. Maybe we sacrifice my mental health, maybe a little bit. I don't know. But there you go. Anyway, we have an amazing young man on the show. Boucher joins us on the show. Did I get that right?
Boucher. Bryce Boucher.
Right. B.E. Boucher joins us on the show. We'll be talking with Bryce today about his books, his insights, and everything else. He's the author of his trilogy called The Scepter. And it starts with a book called A Johnster, the Monster, and the Bear.
Actually, the trilogy is The Johnster, the Monster, and the Bear Adventures, and the first book is The Scepter.
I see. Okay.
But you were close. Yeah.
There you go. I'm just reading from Amazon. That's all I know. I just read. I just read the material. I'm like one of those news people. I just read whatever's on the teleprompter.
Good plan.
Out December 23rd, 2024. So give us your .coms, Bryce, wherever you want people to find you on the interwebs.
My website is BEBoucher, BEBOUCHER.com.
There you go.
That's where to look for me. I'm on other things like Instagram and all that, but frankly, I don't know what they are. So it's easier to just go to the website.
Yeah. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside this book and how it launches into your trilogy?
Well, the trilogy is actually a long story that begins with a young man that I call the Bear, who's actually patterned after my own son Jeff, who I called the Bear. Mm-hmm. And he is in the story, he's a high school student who, when he was just a toddler, his mom disappeared. Mm-hmm. And he has lived with this hole in his heart for all this time up until he becomes a high school student and gets distracted by all that stuff. Somewhere along the line, he meets up with this Indian medicine man named Donald Deernose, who tells him that in fact, his mother probably is alive, but she's in another universe and had to go there to avoid dying from a terminal illness. So Jeff the Bear recruits his best friend John, who is called Johnster the Monster, and their two, what they hope to be their girlfriends, Debbie and Pat, and also a new friend named Clark, who's an interesting character. He's a bullied kid who they befriend, and they all wind up going into this alternate universe, which is called Sergel Tuteron. While there, they find that they are not only just showing up there, they are expected by the people in Sergel Tuteron, who believe that they are somehow prophesied to come there and save them from this evil king who is destroying everything with his greed and so forth. So in the process, they run across all kinds of strange creatures. They get guided. Initially, they're met and guided by a talking dog named Uriah, who introduces them to everybody that needs to be introduced with. And over a period of time, they realize that they have to join this battle against this guy because he's such a bad guy. And in the process, they learn more about themselves than they ever would have thought they would learn.
There you go. And what was the premise of why you motivated to write the book, and maybe some of the structure of the story you're utilizing there?
Initially, it's kind of funny because the book actually started as just a thought. I was at a soccer game for my son Jeff, and I always called him the Bear, and I'd be yelling at him, "Come on, Bear!" You know, this, that, and I was standing on the sideline with a friend of his father's, and his name was the friend was named John, and he said, "Oh, you call Jeff the Bear?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, we call Johnster the Monster," and I thought, wow, Johnster the Monster and the Bear. I said, that's a great title for a book. But I didn't do anything with it. I just let it kick around my head for a period of probably a few years. And one day I just said, the heck with it. And I sat down and started writing. So the book started out as a title and nothing else. I didn't have the slightest idea where it was going to go or anything else. And somewhere along the line, I came to discover that I really didn't have any ideas. My characters just told me what they wanted to do, and I just had to sit down and write it. So that's what I did. And as I got through the first two books and into the third one, my son was suffering from brain cancer. As his condition started to deteriorate some, it became more and more important for me to get these done because I wanted him to be able to experience them. And he really loved them. And more than that, he saw them as a way that his struggles could be used to maybe help other kids who may be suffering from not just diseases, but bullying, lousy life, whatever. So that's kind of where it came to where we are now.
Well, that's pretty nice. Now, your son, tell us about your son, because some of the motivation, he had a long battle with brain cancer. Talk to us about that and how that inspired the story, because I think there's something really beautiful in what you're sharing here and to helping others.
Well, he was a most wonderful person, and I got my ideas, the character Jeff the Bear in the books is very much like Jeff the Bear, the real guy, in that he was a big guy. He was very funny, had a great sense of humor. Very compassionate to others. And most of all, he had a do not quit attitude that just did not quit. I mean, you have to understand that the disease that he had is universally fatal. And no matter what you do, it sooner or later it's probably going to get you. And we tried everything we could possibly try, but throughout this, he was just an absolute rock. He didn't let anything bother him about it. He just moved on. And so what we try to do in the book is kind of use that as a metaphor for things that happen in the book. These kids, they run up against situations that they have no business running up against or winning. And yet through their friendship, loyalty, all these kind of things that we try and show are good attributes that kids should have, young people should have, to show them that they can overcome it. Whatever it is, they can overcome it. If they got problems at home, if they're bullied or whatever, we tell them, read the Johnster the Monster stories and take the day off. Take the day off from that crap and enjoy your life and realize that you can overcome it. It just takes some time.
Yeah. And sometimes it gives you different perspective, gives you release. You can find out, how, you get your mind off of things. And I find I tend to enjoy doing that, and it helps kind of refill me and reset me. And, it's easy for us to get caught up in our own world. And of course, when you're trying to survive and stuff, I mean, that's a whole different animal of focus. And so, yeah, having something like this, or maybe a book that kids can read, this would be a great book to give out to children at hospitals and different things like that.
Exactly. And I've actually even considered that. I've run across a couple people that have had for some reason it comes up in conversation that their child, nephew, whatever is in the hospital and he's suffering from a severe illness. I say, give me your address. Let me send him a book. And at some point in time, I'd hope to think that maybe I could do that on a bigger scale, where I could be at hospitals or whatever, where they would just look at this as an opportunity. And mainly the thing is because the Johnson the Monster adventures are like the old timey adventure. They're just good adventures. They don't have any they're not hampered by any political or controversial aspects or anything like that. They're just good adventures about kids that get into sticky situations of people and monsters that would like to kill them, for example, and they are able to work their way through it just because of things that are inside them that they never had any idea were inside them in the first place.
Yeah, and knowing their limits, so or what their possibilities are. So you have the first book, The Scepter. Tell us about the second book.
The Secret City picks up where the Scepter left off. The Scepter goes through a bunch of adventures to where they get to a point where it's a good ending point for that part of the story, but it doesn't tell the whole story. The Scepter is actually what that is a magical scepter like kings used to have, that little thing they hold and wave around at their people and everything. But this scepter supposedly has magical qualities, and it can only be lit up or energized by one person, and that's the bear. And that's because he's been prophesied for years that he's going to come and save the day. And he gets there and goes, "Huh, what? I'm a high school kid." But over time, he gets pulled into this thing. And the whole thing about the first book, The Scepter, is how they rescue the scepter from the bad guys. The second part, the Secret City, is how the scepter and other things that they have are utilized to actually go into battle and defeat these. It's not just the king. He has lots of very not nice monsters and so forth on his side that are fighting for him. So that's pretty much what they do. And in the end, it turns out to be really a archetypical battle between good and evil. You've got the ultimate good on one side, the ultimate bad on the other side, and there's really no in between, and there's no guarantee that ultimate good is going to win, even though, of course, we'd all like to see that happen.
Yeah. There's never a guarantee that good will win over evil, and it kind of assures us in the movies, but every now and then we find that fate has its way, unfortunately, sometimes, and good doesn't always triumph. But that's kind of, I think, what makes life valuable and what makes it something that we endure and enjoy. What about the third book in the series?
The third book is called Elstrom Legacy, and the land called Elstrom is referred to a few times in the first two books, but nobody really knows much about it. The characters really don't know much about it. And then it turns out that one of the characters, who is a major character in the first two books, named Crystal, who's a talking cat with magic eyes that can do all kinds of things, finds out that her land in Elstrom is threatened by another land in Elstrom. And so they once again come to Jeff and his friends, who by then they refer to as the Searchers, excuse me, and ask for their help. And Elstrom is actually takes place in a giant cave. It's a giant cave that has several different civilizations within it on different levels. And a couple of these got kind of rowdy and decided they were going to mess with Crystal's family and life, and that's so the other team goes in there to help them. And in the process, it actually does, there are things that happen that does wrap up all the loose ends that are in the Scepter and the Secret City. You leave a few loose ends so that people go, what happens next? But at some point in time, you gotta tie them all together. And I don't really like loose ends that much. So
Tie it up. So do you see a future beyond the trilogy?
Actually, there is a fourth book called Sergel Tuteron, which is a prequel to the first three, and I'm going to have that published fairly soon. It's just a matter of my friend who does my editing with me and I just haven't been able to connect enough to get the editing done, but hopefully we'll be able to do that soon, and then that'll be out. But beyond that, there are other stories that could be brought to bear out of this trilogy that don't necessarily have to do with Johnster the Monster. They're just other civilizations and so forth that have things going on that may have happened before Johnster the Monster and the bear ever showed up. So because of that, those characters wouldn't be in it, and that's something I don't know. I haven't done anything yet on it, and I don't know if I will or not.
It's kind of interesting what you said, that your characters kind of talk to you and they have their way. I think that's how I heard you say it. It's interesting. I have a lot of authors on the show, and they have their characters talk to them and kind of harass them in writing. Is that kind of the best experience to have when you're writing books? Is because it makes it easier. They kind of become they present themselves as their own person. Maybe?
Well, Stephen King said that a novelist should be a secretary and not God, and that's the way I look at it. I don't sit there. I don't do outlines or anything like that. Quite honestly, when I start writing something, I don't have the foggiest idea what's going to happen. I don't plan it. I don't think, oh, this will be cool and I can do this and this character could do that. It doesn't happen that way. I just start right, and the character does something, and all of a sudden the character decides to, go into a cave. And then I go, oh, shoot, this guy went into a cave. Now I got to do something. I got to do something with his cave. So what do I do? And then the character tells me what to do. And a lot of it too is I feel like Jeff is there with me with a lot of it when I'm writing this. Just kind of a spiritually like thing. In other words, but it just I look at it from what would Jeff do in these situations, and a lot of that is how how these things come about. So,
well, that's interesting. You've got some support there, and some advice. I've always been jealous because I don't have any. The only people who talk to me are my 6 other personalities, and clearly that's another thing. There's one that says kill, kill, kill all the time. The judge says I can't use it anymore. So, yeah, I have authors on, and they're like, this is why I write books about business and novel and nonfiction, and you guys write fiction and are great at it. And I'm just like, no one talks to me, but it's such a great gift to have. I think I'm jealous.
I don't hear them in my head, that kind of thing, but it's just like I said, it's just that a character will put him or herself in some kind of situation or somewhere, and I'll go, oh, what do I do now? And amazingly enough, something always happens. I'm always able to write it down. It's like it's really, really interesting. I'm very lucky because I don't get writer's block. I don't think I've ever had writer's block a single time where it's just like, oh no, what do I do now? I mean, I might have little twinges of panic where, oh no, what do I do now? But immediately it comes to me, and the way I get around that, and the way I would tell anybody else, is just keep writing. Keep writing, and the answer will come.
Just keep writing. I found that works too. I used to call it puking on the page. We did when I got my book written, I joined a accountability group during COVID. And so we joined the accountability group, and everyone in it was like writing a sentence and then trying to edit it. They were doing the whole, like, it was the worst of times or the best of times. It's like, well, should it be the other way around? And they're trying to short edit everything they're writing as they're writing it. And I've had enough authors on that I realized, there's an editing phase to writing a book at the end. And I'm like, and then you hire usually somebody else to do that so they can write in your voice, but also so they know where to put the commas and periods and correct all the crap you misspelled and stuff. And I was going through it with him, and I would just, fortunately I had all the stories of my life, and so I just puked them out on the page, I called it, and I would just write stuff. And sometimes, I didn't worry about being the best writing, like it was the worst of times or the best times, or some sort of opening to Stephen's King book. Yeah, I just blathered it out and put it on the page, and by the time I was done, I was like 30 or 50,000 words, and I was sitting there with my accountability group of wonderful people, and I was like, "So how you guys doing?" I got like 20,000 words, and they're like, "We're still editing the first paragraph." I'm like, "You've been editing the first paragraph this whole time?" They really weren't doing the first paragraph, but they were almost, and they were so involved with the editing, and to me, it's like when you've got that flow, when you've got those ideas, the best thing to do is just get them out on the paper, and then you can mess with them and muck about with editing.
I do that a lot, and I unfortunately my biggest Achilles heel is I'm obsessive about this stuff to the point where I will spend sometimes a whole day working a paragraph.
Oh, really?
Or even sometimes a sentence. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I will do that. And my wife always laughs at me for it, but she says, she understands that I just sometimes you just really can't say exactly what you want to say.
Yeah.
So you redo it and redo it and redo it. And I edit the books myself. I have a good friend named Robin who she edits with me, and I do that. I hired a couple people initially to edit my books, and frankly, there was one person had one useful suggestion, and the rest of them were just nonsense. Yeah. And they just didn't get it. They didn't get what I was trying to say, and they wanted me to do things that would change things. And I said, no, I'm not going to change it. This is what it is. And I'm just the stupid secretary writing this stuff down. I can't change what these people are do, and that's that's the way it is.
Yeah. I found sometimes rewriting stories again give me sometimes that different prose that you're talking about, where I'm trying to find how it should be written. And so sometimes I'll be like, okay, well, here's this version, here's that version, which version is better? And sometimes I find the more times I craft something and I keep rewriting it, I do this a lot on Facebook. I'll fine tune stuff. And that really helps too. Like just going over it. And of course, that's part of the editing process. You go over it 50 trillion times. Yeah, it's hard to find somebody who can write in your voice too and get your thing. I never knew how important that was. People, when I was going into editing, people were like, you have to find someone who knows your voice. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's commas and periods, man. And then I had some well-meaning friends send me, they're like, hey, I'm a professional editor. And one of them was female. And I'm like, well, I've already hired an editor and they know my voice. I can see why this is important. But if you want to take a crack, here's a page. And I mean, maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe there's a better way. And they tried it. And boy, what they sent me was written in a woman's voice and is written in her voice. And I remember reading it going, this isn't anything I've written. This isn't my voice.
Yeah.
This is a woman's voice. Yep. And that's when I realized why all the authors say that, you have to find somebody who can edit in your voice and write in your voice in the editing. And I never realized how important it was till I saw other people trying to write in my voice. And I was like, that's not gonna, people are going to read that. They're going to go, that wasn't Chris.
They can't do it. They can't do it. I mean, some people I think just don't maybe have what it takes to do the editing themselves and find all the mistakes and that sort of thing. And I make a million mistakes, and I hopefully find 98% of them. I'm sure I don't find them all, but the
hard part about editing is you hand them like 50,000 words and they come back to you after a month or something and they give you like a page back and they go, we threw all that out. We kept this. So start writing, boy.
I met with a literary agent once, and a guy with him said they were talking about these books were really long. Johnson, the Scepter and the Secret City are at one time one book, but it was just so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I had to cut it in half, and I had to cut out all these things, and I just loved the way he put it. And he said, you're like throwing away this and throwing away that. And he said, it's like eating your children. And that's kind of the way you feel about it when, oh, gee, do I really want to get rid of this character? But you got to, because it's just taking up space and not doing anything. So,
yeah. I mean, that's just sometimes the way you got to go with it. But yeah, it's really funny how the whole business of writing and stuff. What advice would you give to other authors who are trying to write something? I think maybe some advice for someone who's could use maybe was in your space with a loved one who was suffering, and maybe using writing as a cathartic way to maybe remedy some of it.
It is, and I would definitely encourage that. I mean, I don't think I'm a person that really deserves to give anybody else advice, but writing for me is a cathartic experience where Jeff is concerned. And I actually have another book I'm just literally finished a couple days ago, which is a murder mystery. Takes place in a hospital during the COVID times. So you brought up COVID before, so people run across all these things that happened during COVID and restrictions in the hospital, which are things we actually put up with, because my son was in the hospital during that time, and we had to put up all of the visiting restrictions and all this other nonsense. Yeah, that they put through. It was just not good. But I definitely think that not only as a cathartic experience, but use that as an opportunity to honor that person that is suffering. And I mean, Jeff really did love the books, and he loved the stories in them and so forth. And it was a very good thing for me to be able to give him that gift.
That's wonderful.
It's a tough, it's a really, there's nothing worse than having a terminally ill kid. And it's a really hard road to hoe. So
yeah. You think your kids are going to outlive you, and I even have that problem with my dogs. I think my dogs are going to outlive me, and it really is awful, and they go first.
We lost 3 dogs in 7 months last year. And,
holy crap!
Yeah, all 3. Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, it's not fun. Well, I'm glad that there's an homage to your son, and a great story and detail you can share with other people, maybe that can uplift them as they're going through pain and suffering, and maybe trying to see, get themselves entertained beyond the world that it is. Because, I found that entertaining people, making them laugh, making them smile, taking them out of their things. I told the story a number of times on the show, but I remember one time my dad called me. He'd had a stroke, and he'd gone really pale, and they'd brought him back. They brought him back. He was gone. It was pretty much, his color was all gone and everything. And they brought him back and got him stable, and he was really scared. He called me, and you could hear just the fear in his voice. And you didn't normally hear fear in my father's voice. You would hear anger, but you didn't hear fear. And I remember I the way I deal with these things is I start telling jokes. I try and make people laugh, and I try and entertain. And, he was talking about stuff that isn't going to matter in the long run of anything, and there's no use dwelling on it. It is what it is. And so I started just telling him stupid jokes like, what's the nurse like? What's that hospital food? Easy, low-hanging joke fruit. And pretty much within a few minutes, I had him laughing. At first, he resisted me. And, of course, if you do that to a comedian, they'll keep going. So, it's always the guy in the room that you can't make laugh, that you focus in on. I'm going to make you laugh. But I had him laughing, and by the end of it, I lifted his fear. I lifted his worry. I didn't make anything go away, but I gave him life. I showed him the beauty of life for a moment, and how he was still here, and how you could still enjoy it. And I think when we bring that to other people through means of entertainment or uplifting or stories that give lessons and stuff, that just helps make the world a better place, I guess.
I agree with you. I agree 100%. Jeff was very big on humor. He always had the joke of the day. And when he was in the hospital, I swear to God, I'd be in there for hours at a time and thought I knew everybody. And there would be people come in, I wouldn't know who they are, and they'd say, "Oh, I just came for the joke of the day." And really, and here's a kid, he's lying in there. He's, is partially paralyzed and
Oh,
everything from
wow.
this horrible disease. And
Mhm.
there's a couple of nurses that they'd come by off their shift just because he lifted them up.
Ah.
There's one wonderful nurse that said that she actually stopped doing what she was doing and went to work for Dana-Farber in the cancer center just because of her dealing with
Oh,
Jeff, and it made her want to be in that realm, and that's something that I'm extremely proud of for him.
that's good. We
Uh,
never know how much the work that we do and the stuff that we do in good reaches other people and changes the world and changes lives, really, when it comes down to it.
I learned a lot about that
Mhm.
from him, just people that he touched in a really positive way, and it's like, wow, I never even heard of this person or whatever, and
Mm.
yet they say all these great things. And um, I think, and in the book, there's just a lot of that kind of thing. There's a lot of humor, a lot of sarcasm. These are high school kids, and Jeff and John work themselves each other over all the time, like friends of that age do.
Mhm.
Uh, One of my favorite, it's kind of a secondary story, is Clark, who's the fifth kid, who's a bullied kid. He is treated like crap at school, just bullied mercilessly. His mother's an alcoholic. His stepfather beats him up. I mean, he's just the most miserable kid you can imagine.
Mm.
And Jeff and John befriend him and back all the bullies off. And when they wind up going to Sergel Tuteron, something very interesting happens, and he learns that the very traits that he has in this world that make him bullied and picked on and everything, in the Segel Tuteron world, make him admired and a hero.
Mm.
And so that we try and show, like, okay, if maybe if you're bullied or whatever, you have these things, don't necessarily throw away those traits. Embrace them and try and use them to your advantage, because they may not be so bad. The weakness is on the side of the guy that's bullying you,
Yeah.
not the person that's being bullied. So
Mhm. Very true. Very true. Yeah, it's and a lot of young people deal with bullies. This is angled towards young people for the most part, isn't it?
it is. I mean, personally, I'm the author, so I think everybody would enjoy it, and I
Mhm.
think adults could enjoy it. But basically, I'm looking at the 12 to 25-year range, that for young people that are really going through these things. And you're right. I mean, kids with the internet and so forth now, they really have a lot of stuff to deal with that we didn't have to deal with. I mean, these kids kill themselves because they're bullied. It's horrific.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I could reach one kid and keep him from doing that, I would consider everything a tremendous success.
There you
Uh,
go.
so
And it's overwhelming when you're getting bullied. I mean, it really is.
it
It is
is.
overwhelming.
Yep.
And you feel lost. And you're right. A lot of kids do self-harm over that because you just feel like you're in a corner. You don't feel like you can defend yourself. You have to go to school because your parents want you to go to school, and you're just trying to learn stuff and survive, and I don't know, meet girls or guys or whatever your thing is, and yeah, it's hard because I've dealt with
Well,
when I was young, I dealt with some really mean bullies.
oh, yeah, there was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, Clark is somebody that has, and until the bear came along, he didn't have anything. He
Mm.
didn't have anything, but as he learns, as time goes by, and that these other things happen over time, he learns that the savior to him was not Jeff necessarily. The savior was himself. Everything to
Oh.
save him was in himself all along. He just
Ah.
had to find it and bring it out. And that happens with all the characters in there. Debbie, Pat, all of them. And a lot of these people are characters are based on people that I knew very well. And
Hmm.
obviously, the character is the character, and the person's the person, and they're not the same. But still, um,
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm glad you brought an inspiring book, an homage to your son, and his life and story lives on. It'll be interesting to see. Is there anything coming up that maybe we should know about? Any books or anything you're working on that
Well,
might be releasing?
the gross words anthology book is going to be coming out probably in the next week, and that's a really fun book. Lots of fun little stories that are about, like I said, maybe 8, 10, 12 pages long, and they all have a pretty cute story with a twist, with a crossword puzzle at the end, so the kid can kind of relive the story when he does the crossword puzzle. And I hope to have the murder mystery out. It's called Sundowners,
Hmm.
and it's going to be coming out probably in sometime around the late part of the first quarter by the time I get it and edit and so forth. But basically, Sundowners refers to the fact that when people have brain injuries, whether it's from a tumor, an accident, dementia, whatever, when the sun goes down, a lot of times they become a different person. They can become abusive. They can become a lot of different things, and uh, that's something that it makes for an interesting base for a murder mystery in a hospital, I think. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Murder, you say? I love
yeah. Yeah,
There you go.
nothing like a good old serial killer in a hospital to make life interesting when you're in there as a patient.
I like that plot line. That's a book that sounds very interesting to read. Because people are dying all over a hospital. I mean, I don't mean to make light of that, but people are dying all over a hospital, and it would be sometimes hard to tell of like if somebody had mucked about, and maybe
Exactly.
done some
Exactly.
things. I don't know.
Yep.
You've given me some good ideas here.
Well, feel free to steal them.
Well, I might next time. I don't know. One of my relatives is in the hospital.
Yeah.
What happened to the cord, Chris? I don't know. I tripped over it and I put it back on the wall. Why is he
Accidentally unplugged that
dancing like
sucker.
that?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
don't do that, folks. That's not nice. There you go.
Well, if I could just give one message on all of this, on the Johnson the Monster in the book, Bear Adventures specifically, it would be to tell kids, don't give up. Don't give up. You can find your solutions somewhere else, and even in the worst possible scenarios, keep your chin up, because even
Mhm.
if you're going to go out with your chin up, and that's
Mhm.
exactly what Jeff did. I mean, toward the end, he was a chef, and a really good one,
Ah.
but he came to understand that he couldn't be a chef anymore, and
Mm.
so he actually wasn't joking. He told me, he says, I think I want to do stand-up comedy,
Oh.
which he couldn't really stand up at that point, but he wanted me to, he could wheel out in a chair, and he said, just find some improv places where I can go in Boston. And I swear, I mean, it's hilarious. He was unflappable, and he even had his first joke, which was, he said, I would come out and say, I used to hate having a brain tumor, but then it grew on me. And
Wow.
and this is the kind of person he was.
Yeah.
He would not lie down for this thing no matter what. And
Mhm.
for him to use his own trials as a way to maybe help other kids, I think meant more to him than just about anything. So,
Wow. Yeah, and he lives on and he helps other people now. I
yep.
had that with my dog that got cancer, and we helped her with a special diet and did certain things. And since she passed, we helped so many other dogs live that the doctors had told, like they had told my dog, take her home for 3 days and come back. And yet we figured out how to keep her alive for a year and almost 2 years
Good for
by
you.
just changing her diet and making sure she wasn't getting stuff that would feed the cancer, and just making her eat again. So, it's
I
interesting
get it.
how you
I
get
get
through
it.
these things and you can figure out ways to inspire other people and they live on. So,
When things first blew up with Jeff, they told us 2 or 3 months, and he made 7.5. So
ah,
we were pretty happy about that. It wasn't the most wonderful 7.5 at all times, but
mhm.
he wanted it, he lived it, and he did. He touched a lot of people and did a lot of good things during that time. So I definitely get it with your
There you
dog.
go. There you go. One last thing. I think on your guys' website, you guys have an app. called the My Seeing Eye, I guess.
My Seeing Eye app. That was actually invented by my son, Jeff. The icon on it is actually a caricature of his face laughing. And basically what My Seeing Eye is, one day he was in Las Vegas. He liked to play poker. And that also was part of his never say die thing. I'd say, Jeff, it's, if you ever want to quit this, and he'd say, I still have a chip in the chair. And and as long as he had that. But anyway, he calls me up one day. He says, Dad, I got a great idea for an app, which was not unusual. He had lots of great ideas. But he said, I'm standing here on a corner in Las Vegas, and I'm watching all these stupid people, and they're looking at their phones, and they're walking along, and they're banging into each other, walking into trash cans, slipping off the curb, doing all this stuff. And he says, what if we just had an app where you split the screen to whatever percent you want, and you could be reading your news item or your chat or whatever, but at the top of the screen, a certain amount, you'd have your forward facing camera, so you could actually be looking at your camera or at your phone the whole time, but while you're looking at the thing, you can always look at your camera and see what's in front of you so you don't run into it. And it took us a long time to get it up. They told me we'd never get it up on Apple, but we did. And now it's up and running, and we're just getting ready to start promoting it. So
well, there you go. That'll be good then. Your son lives on, and his memory and his inspiration is helping others. What a glorious thing to do. So thank you very much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it, Bryce.
Thank you, Chris. It was great talking to you, and you're my kind of guy. I really enjoyed it.
Well, I have a girlfriend, so sorry, bud. No, I'm just
darn.
Kidding. I got to do the jokes. Just the jokes on the show, folks.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And I don't have a girlfriend because no one loves me. I think isn't that a callback I alluded to? Really
okay. You need to read The Scepter. Come on.
Okay,
it'll help you out.
There you go. Well, I'll take it on my first date. There you go. I'll read it to her or whoever it is. I don't know. Anyway, the jokes are there, folks. So thank you very much, Bryce, for coming to the show. Give us any .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
Well, at beboucher.com, or the books are all on Amazon, including Audible. We have an Audible book for both The Scepter and The Secret City. And real quickly, that's kind of a funny thing. The narrator of the Audible books is a good friend of mine named Stephen Lloyd, who for many years was the voice of wrong numbers in Chicago. So if you got a wrong number, you'd get this beep, deep, resonant voice telling you screwed up and you need to dial another number. So that's kind of fun. So millions of people have heard his voice, but people just don't know who he is.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it's interesting. People can pick up the book wherever fine books are sold, and the app and all that good stuff. So thank you very much for coming to the show. Thanks, Monis, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity, and check out the Johnster, the Monster, and Bear Adventure series. And watch for more from B.E. Boucher. Did I get that right?
Boucher.
There you go. I got it right the second time. There we go. Well, thank you very much. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.
Bryce, we got it out.